are super fired up today. It's all about a 12-unit building. So this is the second live stream that we're doing. And I wanted to talk about this particular property because for everybody that is joining us here for the first time, welcome. My name is Andrew Holmes. And every week, our goal is on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays to come to you with live. Couple days, we're going to have a couple of case studies. On Fridays, we're going to have fun funding Fridays. So we talk about one thing and one thing only. If you've been ever around me, you know I care about one thing, and that is cash flow, right? And the basic belief system is if you take care of real estate for the first 5 years, right? Real estate will take care of you for the rest of your life. So I'm not sure where you're going, meaning I'm not sure what your goal is out of real estate. For me, I'm at about $100-some thousand net, right? $100-some thousand net cash flow every single month. I'm trying to get to 250. So it's a race to 250 for me. And as I continue to grow my own portfolio of properties, we share not only what I'm up to, but what everybody from Mastery that we run is up to. So this 12-unit building today that we're going to talk about, this is the building kind of behind me. And this is a 12-unit building, which happens to be in Indiana. So we're this particular office, we have an office in Chicago, we have an office in Southwest Florida. And so this particular office, obviously, is based out of Chicago, as some of you guys know. And this particular property that we happen to be talking about today is a 12-unit building. The person that wants to buy this property is trying to figure out, hey, does this property make sense? So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about it in context of how we buy properties within Mastery, right? In Mastery, our standards, we don't necessarily look at the cap rates only, right? A lot of times, whenever people are buying a commercial property, they look at cap rates. We're going to talk about looking at equity in the property, looking at cash flow in the property, and looking at DCR. Those are the three standards we judge properties based on. Because if you're only buying property based on a cap rate, you're not necessarily looking at the net cash flow, the net equity in the property. We need to meet a minimum standards of three things. One is equity, number one. Number two is cash flow. Number three is DCR. Because I don't know why you're in real estate. I'm not in real estate. I did not get in just to do flips. I got in for one reason and one reason only, which was to build wealth. So I'm going from 100,000 net a month, a little bit more a month net, to 250. That's my goal. Your goal, like a lot of people from Mastery, maybe, hey, Andrew, I want to get to my first 5,000. I want to get to my first $10,000 net cash flow every single month, right? I mean, we have a ton of people today that are already at 5,000, that are at 10,000, that are at 20,000. So now they're trying to get to a bigger number. So a lot of times people think bigger is better. My point has always been, it's not that bigger is better. It always is based on the number that you're going to buy the property at. So let's deal with some facts. This particular property, where the deal is being made as we speak. And I'll give you guys the details as we kind of go through the live session today about this 12-unit. I'm not giving you the address yet because obviously everything is being signed as we speak, literally. So I don't want to put a kibosh on the deal by somebody interfering in it. But this property is located in Indiana. So the facts of the property the subject facts are 12-unit building. It is 2 bedrooms. Each unit is a 2-bedroom unit, and it is a 1-bath unit, because we need to know the facts before we delve into the details. The next thing is it's got 6 washers and 6 dryers, meaning it's 6 units. Underneath that, there's a small kind of laundry area or whatever you want to call that. And it's got 3 washers and then 3 dryers. So the reason I've notated this is that there is a little bit of a laundry income. I'm not going to consider any income from this, right? And I'll explain that as I go along in today's recording. If you know me, or if you if you're from Mastery, you know how conservative we are with it. The roof on the property is 5 years old. So that's a major expense that can happen, but it's only 5 years old. It was replaced by the insurance company, so they did a good job when the roof was replaced last time because of some damage. And both the buildings have that replaced. It's boiler heat. That's important to understand because some of the part of the heating is obviously paid, or all of the heating is paid by the landlord. So that's important to know. And here's the negative factor. What we found when I suggested this person from Mastery, hey, go get a asbestos report done. Now, generally, I'm 100% against getting asbestos reports done. In this case, the reason we got it done was because we wanted to basically make sure we gave it to the homeowner to the seller. Now, guess what happens, right? That's a big, big, big negative, right? So how was this property found? And this is kind of what will lead into it. So this property was found as a cold call. So what had happened was the seller in this particular property, the husband who used to manage the property, who used to actively run the property, passed away a few years ago. The wife happens to be fairly elderly at this point, and they have a couple of kids that want nothing to do with the property. They want the property sold because they don't live in the area. One of them lives down south somewhere, and another one basically is not really all there, meaning they really don't use their brain in terms of doing anything. So that person just wants the money out of it. And the person that is down south, she wants her mom to kind of move with her. And the mother happens to be quite elderly at this point. So the motivation is based on that they're basically one of those people that are don't wanters. So what happened was initially when this was a cold call lead. So how did this lead come about? So this basically was found on the violations list for this particular town. So my belief always is that you find properties, you kind of find the point that is the kind of the pinch point for a person, and then you try to find deals from that. So I had somebody from Mastery like, Andrew, what do we do, right? We would like to buy some properties. A lot of the properties in this particular area, they're priced rather high. So my point was go out a little bit. Don't try to find properties where everybody else is buying. This is Indiana, so you guys could probably put the two and two together. There are not that many big towns in Indiana. But anyways, you're going to go out a little bit, and then further out, you should be able to find smaller properties because they wanted to buy smaller multi-unit properties. They have an experience of owning 2-3 unit buildings in in Indiana. So what are you smiling at?
Because it's showing up backwards on the screen.
Showing up backwards?
Yeah, so they actually can't read it.
Oh, they can't read it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
We tried changing the settings, it doesn't work. So.
No? Okay. So guys, Lori just told me that I guess we were trying to take this and put it here, but it's important for you guys to understand the numbers. So let me do this. While I'm talking, maybe, Lori, can you just put it on the white paper?
It's going to show up backwards.
Why?
It's a mirroring thing. I don't know. No matter, it's not just a screen. It's whenever you write anything.
It's a setting within the streamer.
Yeah,
Really?
It looks good on the camera.
Yeah.
We can't change anything?
Mm-mm.
Unless you looked at source where it says non-mirrored.
We tried that.
Oh, you did?
I logged in.
Good.
No?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so we're going to have to figure this out next time.
That's how it-
I'm sorry.
So that's good.
Oh, well, if you can read backwards. All right, guys, sorry about that. Anyways,
Just go over the numbers and then we'll...
yeah, so we're going to have to figure this out next time. Anyways, so having said that, this is kind of the basic details. Now let's look at the numbers a little bit, right? In terms of what are the expenses here. The taxes on the property, we verified, they're about $25,000 or so. And we've padded these numbers, mind you. They're actually not quite as high, but we're padding the numbers a bit just to just to be on the safer side. Insurance is a little bit lower. We're padding it a little bit higher because I'd like to change the policy on this particular rental. The way it's being done is not being done right. So we checked approximately, it's about $5,500. I'm using a little bit higher number. Heat and garbage is basically paid by the owner of the property. So they were showing a number of $750. We're using a number of $1,000 between the two properties. This may be a little bit high, but again, we like to be conservative. And then management, they're showing $0. And this is where kind of the trouble begins. So the management number, to me, I don't think the $0 number makes sense. To me, I think it should be a little bit different number. So I'm going to use a number of about 6%, which would be somewhere around 6% and adjusted for the adjustment in rent. So about $800 is the number that I'm going to use. And for anybody that joins in, sorry, I know you guys are looking at this a little backwards. So there's something wrong with our settings. Anyways, so now let's look at the next part of it, which is the daughter that lives down south. She is looking for $1.15 million on the property. There is absolutely no debt on the property at this point. The property is owned free and clear, right? And the rehab on the property, according to her, is $0 because the properties are rented out. They're rented out on a month-by-month lease, which we like because we can get the tenants out really quickly. Right now, the rents are $950 per unit times 12. So that puts you at $11,400. Now, here's why I kind of wanted to lay this out. The reason why I wanted to lay this out, generally, we would never tell anybody to go get an asbestos test done. In this particular case, this is the older building. The floors have those 9x9 tiles that is asbestos. And guess what? The problem with asbestos is this. There's no problem as long as it's there and nothing is broken, nothing is chipped. But in this case, we purposely had that done, and there's this long report. And guess what we did? We had it FedExed to the seller. Why do we have it FedExed to the seller? Because we want them to go, oh my God, right? And of course, guess what happened with the seller? The call we got was, oh my God, I had no idea, blah, blah, blah. Because of course, the first thing they do is go on the net and look up all the horrible things about asbestos. A lot of buildings, if you're in Chicago, if you're in a lot of different parts of the country, you're going to have asbestos. You're going to have asbestos on the pipes in terms of because it's great in terms of the insulating factor. If it's not touched, there's nothing wrong with it. On the floor, in terms of the 9x9 tiles, two ways of fixing it. You encapsulate it, what's called encapsulation, or you go over it with the luxury vinyl plank, right? There's a lot of remedies around it. It's not like the end of the world. But guess what happens to somebody who doesn't understand real estate? They're going to see that bigger report, and we sent them also the remediation cost. If somebody was to vacate the property, completely take all of it out, the remediation cost is terribly, terribly high. So what we did is they can draw their own conclusions, but now guess what's happened? Now that has to be, so there was a real estate agent that was vying to get this property listed. But now that there is a big asbestos report, guess what's going to happen? That report is going to have to be given to every buyer and a lot of people in this particular area, because this is off the beaten path a little bit, right? They're not necessarily, see, there are two trains of thought. Sometimes people are like, well, I live outside of Chicago. I live 50, 60 miles out. I'm going to come into Chicago and compete with everybody else. Why would you want to do that? It's much easier to be a big fish outside, meaning in a small pond, than to try to come to a big pond and try to compete. Meaning if you're a little bit farther out, do you still have properties there? Can you still find properties with equity? Can you find properties with cash flow? Is the DCR going to work? As long as that's the case, then why not buy properties there? This is the case with this property. There's not a whole lot of savvy real estate investors like us in that particular area. So it makes sense. Yet that's a great area because it has very, very, very high employment rate, and it's a nice B plus neighborhood. So, we categorize areas between A meaning aspirational, B meaning bread and butter, or meaning just below the A category, aspirational, affluent category, C meaning areas that have some challenges, and then D meaning disastrous areas. We don't want to be in D areas. We don't necessarily want to be in areas with some challenges. Perfect place to buy a rental is B plus areas. This happens to fit that to the T. So this particular property, even though they say, hey, no work needs to be done, technically, is that the case? Yes, but the units are dated, right? And so the play in this particular property is going to be it's going to be basically, you're going to have to go in, do a rehab. So you're going to have to go in, do some capital improvements into the property, and then you're going to do a refinance out. So here's how that would look like. So let me just kind of move this. I know you guys won't be able to see it, but so the first step is going to be to buy the property. The next step is going to be rehab it. The third step is going to be that rehab is going to force the value of the property up, and then you're going to refinance the property, right? So it's going to be basically a 1-2 punch. It's not going to be boom, you buy the property and cash flow next day, because that's not the highest and best use, and that's not going to create the highest amount of value in it. So a lot of times what people look at is this. What people look at is they're like, Andrew, they're asking 1 point whatever million, right? 1.15 million, whatever their number is. My point always is this: it really doesn't matter what they're asking, right? They could be asking 1.3 million, 1.5 million, 1.7 million, whatever seems okay to them, they're going to ask. That has nothing to do with what I can pay for this particular property, right? I'm going to pay what fits my numbers. So we're going to work backwards to figure out what can I pay for the property. So now the first thing what I'm going to look at, right? The first thing, ideally, I'm going to look at is this. Once the rehab is done, very conservatively, what is the number that I'm going to get in terms of rent on that particular units? What is going on in the property, and how much am I going to be able to get? So I had this person from Mastery call some brokers, do some research, and they said, man, all day long, right? So I have that number written down. Let me pull it up. So, oops. So all day long, what a bunch of these brokers have said is, without a problem, if you have the property in nice tip-top condition, because the laundry room is a nice place, hallways and everything are really nice, but it's kind of weird because the inside of these properties, which is the bathrooms and the kitchens, is dated a little bit. And remember the issue, that the can of worms we opened up by pointing out some of the asbestos that's there. Now, here's the cool part about it. All the floors, the rest of the floors are all hardwood floors in the entire property, right? So somebody took, this is it's got concrete, what do you call it? Concrete floors. So it's concrete floors, plus there's furring strip or something, and then you got to nail hardwood on it. So somebody at some point in history has put hardwood floors over there. The only place there are no hardwood floors is all the kitchens, right? That's where in each floor, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 6. You got 12 kitchens with this asbestos as the flooring. It's easy fix, but yet for somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, it's going to be like, oh my God, this is so difficult, right? So what happens is this, that in this particular property, we estimated, okay, how much is it going to cost you to bring this property up to a level where it's in a condition where all day long you can get $1,300 per unit, right? And for some people, a couple brokers we talked to, they're like, you may be able to even get easily 14, but we're being conservative with the whole number. So 1,300 is what we feel very, very strongly that is doable all day long, right? So let's just say if we take 12 units, right, times how much will it cost per unit to bring it up to a level that it can be in mint condition, right? I think it's going to be about $18,000. So what we did was for 12 units, we said, okay, to bring this up to the level we want, it's going to be 200,000 in improvements is what we need, right? 200,000 in improvements is what is needed. So basically, if you take 200,000, you divide it by 12, it gives you about, 10, 12,000 per unit, something to that, about, 10, 12,000 bucks per unit is kind of what you're going to need, give or take. So in terms of rehab, this is what is going to be needed, because we need to go in, do some capital improvements, push up the value of the property, and then at that point, put tenants in on nice long-term leases, and boom, the property will start performing. So based on that, right? Based on that, if I am getting $1,300 in 12 units, the first thing I figured out was 1,300 times 12, that gives me 15,600, right? That's the total amount of money that will be collected from that building. And the way I look at it, and this is not the way most people, whenever they're buying a 5, 6, 7, 10, 12, 15, 30 unit, look at it. Most of the times they look at it based on a cap rate. I don't look at it that way. The first test that I always look at is, of this amount, will 75% cover all the expenses? So 75% of this number would be how much, right? It's 15,600 times 0.75. That gives me 11,700. So what is that number? So 11,700 means, can I pay my principal, interest, taxes, insurance, any carrying costs, meaning heat, water, garbage, whatever those costs are, and management? Can I do that? If I think I can get away with that, I mean, this deal is a home run deal, bar none, as long as it has equity in it, right? Because guess what happens? What that means is I'm collecting 15,600 in this property, right? 15,600 and minus 11,750. That means I'm left with $3,800 in cash flow every single month, month after month after month after month. Even if, now we're not planning to buy this property with 20% down, right? We're going to try to buy this property with as little cash out of pocket as humanly possible. But it will produce, if these numbers are true. Well, what about, maybe 75% won't cover it, maybe how about 80%? Could you live with that, right? What you have to look at is, whenever you look at a building, you have to keep three things in mind, right? So when we're looking at a building, we always look at these three things. Number one, we're going to look at, does the property have equity after fixing it up? Right? We want ideally 25% equity. So in the commercial terms, they'll call it, it's a value add play, right? Meaning we're going to add a value by putting some capital expenses, putting some capital in there, spending some money, and then increasing the value, right? So it's a value add play. Cash flow wise, now for most people who buy a lot of bigger multi-units, they're like, Andrew, you have lost your mind. I probably have, but this is my reality, right? We have 1,200 people in Mass Street that own over 18,000 properties, right? Average cash flow is in excess of 450 per door, right? So 350 per door in this case, I'm being conservative. So, I mean, I'm not even asking for too much. So what that means is, ideally, in the perfect world, I would like to make $4,200 from the 12 units. 350 times 12 is 4,200. In terms of DCR, meaning debt coverage ratio, I want to look at a debt coverage ratio of 1.33, minimum ratio. That's what I want to look at, right? And DSCR, so if you go to a commercial lender, they don't look at DCR. We look at DCRs. They look at a thing which is just a little bit different, and that is called DSCR. You want to learn more about that? Go to the 3-day event, right? We'll talk about that over there. Right now, I don't have the time to explain that. But anyways, so that's kind of the ideal things we want to hit, right? So we can do it two ways. Either we can go back and forth with the seller, or we can come up with a number that we're willing to pay for the property and then see if the seller is willing to go for that. So what we're looking at here is this. Let me go back here. Okay, so these were kind of the details right now. The way the property sits right now is something like this, 950, blah, blah, blah. So what I'm trying to do is this. I'm trying to buy this property, or I'm trying to get this person from Mastery to buy this property for a number where they can buy the property, they can rehab the property, then they go get an appraisal done on the property, and then they refinance the property and have as little out of pocket as humanly possible. So because I'm having a hard time, and this is flipped backwards for you guys, I'm going to share my screen. Generally, I don't want to show this because this is from Mastery, but I will. So, hey, Lori, how would I share my screen? How would I share my screen? Huh? I want to share this screen.
There's a little button that says it.
So we're still trying to figure this out, guys.
This guy.
Oh, that.
Yes.
Share screen.
Yes.
Start screen sharing.
Yes.
Window, Chrome,
You got it?
entire screen,
Yeah, which one do you want to share?
share. No, window. I want to share this one.
Okay, open. Go back to the.
It just had Excel just now.
What about if you put Chrome tab? Okay.
See, this Excel.
Open it up in one of these tabs, can you?
How do I open it up over there?
What? Yep.
I can't put it here.
Okay, try. What? It's not. It's because you have it on a different page. Open it up wider.
No, it says update system permission to allow recording for browser.
No, that's not it. But do the share again. Try to go to Windows. Oh, it's not letting you share it. No. I don't know why it's not letting you share it.
Did Lori screw it up or something? I don't know why it's not letting me.
Is that document somewhere else?
No, it's just on my Excel sheet.
Because if you could email it, maybe we could put it in. If you email it to me, you could put it in a different way.
If I email it to you?
Yeah, email it to me, and I'll have Lori put it up.
Oh, you can do that?
Yeah.
Hey, guys, hold on one second.
It'll be in another box.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, hey, I'm going to just screenshot it. I wonder if I can do that. You guys, just bear with me for 1 second because I'm just learning how to use this whole thing. So it's just a learning curve really quick. So. Okay, so now I just sent it to them as we speak. Screenshot, open, and then send. So hey, you guys should have the screenshot. Can you guys share it by any chance? Sent. Oh, now I think I can share it too. share. Oh, there we go. How about now? Yeah, I'm a genius. All right. So what I did was I wanted to show you guys kind of live within Excel as to how we manipulate the numbers, but sorry about that because we're still getting used to it. Anyways, so what I did was I started kind of putting in some numbers. So let me just walk you through this really, really quick. So if you look at it, first let's start kind of at the purchase price, which was, I started it at actually 1.15, which is what she's looking for. That's the price I started at. And then I started bringing it down to where numbers I was happy with it, right? Because when we gave her the asbestos quote and all the mess it would create to really clean that up, we're like, oh my God, this is such a problem, such a problem, such a problem. You're trying to negotiate. Right? So we gave her the report, we gave her all those things, and she's the one who started going nuts about the whole thing. She didn't know, her mom shouldn't be there, blah, 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 right? So what this is, hey, Harry, don't disappear, man. I need a number from you. So you got to tell me what the rate would be on a commercial mortgage right now for a 25-year deal. Right? So just ask Rahul or ask Farah, right? Ask Farah is here? Yeah, ask Farah. So as to what the rate would be on a commercial policy, because I have it for if we go to National RE Invest or one of those, but how much would the rate be if we basically go to one of the smaller banks? So, okay. So what I did was I kind of brought the purchase price down a little bit and to a number where I thought that's a number that they would be willing to accept. And this is something that you have to play with the numbers. And I wanted to show you with the calculator live how we do that. But since our technical glitch, so I put about $1 million. What if we offer her $1 million, right, for the property, which I know she will take. Well, how do I know? I'll explain in a minute. And in terms of rehab wise, we said 200,000. I don't think it's going to take 200,000, but we just said 200,000, right? In that property, because the cabinets over there that need to be replaced are really small. The floors, we put new appliance package and basically solid surface countertops, right? That's not going to take that much, a coat of paint inside, and that's it. Right? That's fairly easy to do, and it's not a $200,000 cost, even on 12 units, right? So, but that's the number I'm taking. Now, on top of that, you're going to have some closing costs, meaning you're going to have some fees, title fees, this, that, all that stuff. It's not going to all add up to $20,000, but I'm putting $20,000 in there. Right? And if you notice, I did not put insurance, carrying costs, finance costs, because I don't want to necessarily muck that up with those costs right now. I'm trying to keep it clean and simple for everybody to understand for today's kind of the live as we go here, right? So what was the back end value? Now, before when all of this is going on, we already sent all the data on this. I was going to say performance data as if this is an airplane, but all the data on the property, and we had a appraisal done, right? They did a desktop appraisal on the property, and they said all day long, we think it's 1.6. That's the value on it, right? 1.6 is the value. So I'm taking 1.55 as the value. This is the value after rehab, mind you, right? So this is the back end value on it, and I'm only making it 1.55. I think the actual number when the appraiser gets in there, it comes in 1.7, 1.8, but let's just be conservative. So if I put a 75% refi loan on it, in this case, this mastery student is going to put a 75% loan on the property, what happens, right? What happens is this. They would have a mortgage on this particular deal of $1.1 million, 62,500, assuming these numbers are true. And they would have cash in the deal, 57,500 in the deal, right? Now, if the appraiser comes in higher, can they take even that cash out? Absolutely. And in this particular deal, 99.9%, that's what's going to happen. But I want to show you the worst case numbers and see what you think, right? So in this particular case, rents based on $1,300 a month in rent times 12, that puts you at 15.6. Your property taxes are in there, your insurance is in there. Property taxes, mind you, we're putting a higher number. Insurance, we're putting a higher number. And then you're like, well, how come there's association fees? Is there an association? No, there is zero association. What I'm taking the $1,000 expense in there as every single month is water, some common utilities, like the lights in the common hallway, and garbage, right? And those numbers are much lower than the number I'm actually taking, but that's the number I'm taking. The next thing I have in there is a management fee. They say, well, they self-manage it, and it's zero, but we know it's not going to be zero, right? So I put $800 there. Now, some of you will say, well, no, Andrew, that's too light. It's too heavy. I don't know. That's the number I know we could get it managed if we were managing it. I expect the person who's from Mastery that's going to manage it to be able to manage it for that number, right? So if your number is different, you can always use a little bit different number. So having said that, that's kind of where it is. Now, if you notice, and if you've been paying attention, what is missing here is the laundry income is missing, right? So, and this is something I've always said, and it's not a joke, it's actually true, right? That if you have more Hispanic people living in a building, they love to do laundry, right? They must like really, really good clothes, because generally, if it's a lot of Hispanic people living in a building, your laundry is going to collect more money, right? And you can test it. We've done it on our properties. For some reason, right, Hispanic people either have a lot of clothes or they just really, really like laundry. And I say that to say this, right? I'm, of course, being facetious a little bit, but I say that to say this, that in this particular case, on a 6-unit building, I'm taking the laundry income as zero, right? This is how I'm taking. I do not add the laundry back in. It's not a big enough unit where I'm going to add the income in and look at it as cash flow, right? In this particular property, generally what's going to happen is for every 3 apartments, right? Every 3 apartments. In this case, there are a total of 12. So for every 3 apartments, every 2 months, you're going to collect about $900. This is just how it works, right? Don't ask me why it works that way. It just does work that way, right? So you're going to have, so you just do the math, right, for you, and that's generally going to hold true. So where does that money go? Of course, that goes in your pocket as the owner, but what you use that for is it's basically kind of like petty cash, right? Meaning that when you sell the property, you show all of these things. Oh my God, I got this income and I got laundry income and I got everything else. When you're buying the thing, you got a discount for these things because the laundry units that are in there, they're not good, right? Meaning the room is really nice, but the laundry units that are there, they're kind of not really well taken care of. So that is one thing that for sure we would get that changed out, right? And that is not that expensive to do. It's about $700, $600-700 for good Speed Queen kind of units with the coins, or if you want to get fancy with it, there's no reason to get fancy, but that's what it is. So that income is going to be a good chunk for the year, but that's going to cover some of your other ancillary stuff, so I wouldn't count it. Now if we look at this, the first thing we look at is, how about equity position? Assuming this, remember, we were looking for 3 things, right? As we said, we're looking at, for this to be called what we call in Mastery a home run deal. So there's a good deal, there's a great deal, and then there is the highest level, a home run deal. What's a home run deal? A home run deal is where it has 20%, 5% equity. Cash flow has to be, so on a multi-unit building, meaning 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 units, minimum $350 per door, right? And it has to have a DCR, debt coverage ratio, which is net operating income divided by interest plus principal plus interest, right? Is got to be 1.33. So if all these 3 things hit, it's called a home run deal. Otherwise, it may be a great deal, it may be a good deal, right? But it's not going to be a home run deal. So let's see what this is. Assuming we get a value of 1.55 on this particular building, we're going to have about 21% equity in this property, right? At that point, did we hit this? No, we missed it by about 4%. Can you live with it? Well, let's look further. The next thing we're going to look at is, hey, what's the cash flow, right? Based on these numbers, not accounting for the cash flow from the laundry units. In this particular case, the cash flow is going to be about $3,400, $3,482 ballpark, right? So we missed that a little bit also, right? We're off even on the cash flow. And then the third thing we're going to look at is, how about the DCR? So if I look at the DCR over here, the debt coverage ratio on this is 1.45. So we definitely hit this. We didn't quite hit this, and we didn't quite hit this. Now, my question to you is this, right? If you could buy this building, you have $57,000 invested in it, right? You make $3,482 a month. So let's just take $3,400 a month times 12. That's $40,000. Would you, right? If you're watching this, would you invest $57,000, $57,500 to make $40,000 from one multi-unit building? Would you be okay with 21% equity? So let's see who's in the office. Since I'm in the office, let's see if, hey, Farah, Harry, are you guys here? Okay, so let's put Farah on the line, and let's put Harry on the line, because Farah could pull this building off easily, right? She could pay for the property. So let's see. So, hello? Where are you guys? Are you guys coming or no? I don't know where, they're not even speaking from their end. Okay, so would you, no, would you buy this property $57,500 cash in the deal? And if you made $40,800.
A month?
No, not a month. She's saying a month. How are you going to make that? So you invest, let me write this down here. $57,500 on the front end, right, after refinance, and you make $40,800 cash flow every single year. Would you do the deal? You're investing this,
Yeah.
and you're making this every single year.
Yeah.
So Farah says she would do the deal. How about you, Harry? So yeah, so Harry's like, yeah, let me calculate how much it is, right? So guys, think about this, right? Of course, this is a question that I was setting them up for. This is a 72% cash on cash return, meaning how much cash did you put up? How much did you make on this particular property? That's a 72% cash on cash. And what I was asking Harry earlier was this: a property like this one, right? I would not go to one of the national lenders. So if I went to a national RE lending, right? So if I went to national RE lending, I would look at one of the small banks. I would look at small banks, because guess what? On this property, on a property like this, they could give you a 25-year loan at 6% with about a 7-year balloon. That's the loan I would take. I would not take a 7% loan if I don't have to, because my cash flow will become even better in this particular case. So guess what this person has the property under contract for? They have the property under contract for $995,000, not $1 million, the way I showed it. I wanted to bring up this example because this is such a great property, and an example of a property that you can do this all day long, right? Think about it. We missed on all three factors a little bit, but still it happens to be a great deal, right? In terms of cash flow, we're a little short of what we want ideally. We're a little short on equity. DCR, we're really good on. But what is your rate of return? What is your cash on cash? It's not always about getting all your money out. It's about figuring out, is it a good deal? Is it a great deal or is it a home run? Everybody wants home runs all the time, right? But if it's a home run deal, if it's a great deal, or if it's a good deal, that's good enough. So having said that, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's live, we're calling this not a podcast quite, but a live show. And we're going to be back with you on Friday. And remember, your goal should not be to run on a treadmill. What your goal should be is how many treadmills can you own that other people run on? Meaning, see, some people count their wealth on the size of the house that they live in or the types of cars they drive. That is not wealth, right? That is merely rich. What we count our wealth is the number of houses other people live in that we own. Having said that, this is Andrew Holmes. This is going to be a really fun one as this closes and as we get to kind of be proud of the person that is doing this in mastery. And I'm sure we'll bring the person to you. Having said that, guys, thank you very much and talk to you guys soon. Off for now.